I've heard you talking on your show and also in some of the interviews you've done here about reaching out to the right-wingers, that eventually they'll come over to our side, so on and so forth. And when I hear that, I can only think to myself that it's like when Shirley Phelps Roper tells me that eventually the Jews will accept Jesus, and then they will. I won't go to hell, and all the others won't go to hell. I mean, it's a little hopeless, isn't it?
No, I don't think so.
It's not that bad.
Okay, but you have to be very specific about it. Okay,
Yeah.
If you're hoping that you're going to get pro-life people to go, hey, you know what? I didn't really consider about a woman's liberty, and that she should maybe control her own body.
I'm going to change my mind.
Right. That's tough. It can happen,
Yeah.
and it can happen case by case. But that's, in mass, is a little tough, right? But I'm asking for something very specific, saying, hey, look, I know you don't like your politicians being bought, and I don't like it either, right? And I'm not saying you should agree with liberal positions or progressive positions. I want to have a real fair ideological battle with you. But right now we're not having that. What we're having instead is our politicians don't serve either one of us. They serve the corporate interests that have bought them. Can I eventually get a decent percentage of right-wingers to understand that and to join that fight? I think absolutely.
You can, but there's going to be resistance if it's coming from someone on the left, right? Just on
Yeah.
principle. At least that's what I've bumped into.
Oh, of course, they're going to distrust you, etc. But that's normal. I mean, if Sean Hannity came with a wonderful idea, we'd be concerned
Liberals
too.
are going
Right.
to be hesitant. They're going to be
Right.
thinking, what's going on underneath this that
Right.
is causing that? Yeah.
Exactly. But hopefully, if you do it for long enough and you explain it to them very, very clearly, and look, if Hannity came with an idea, he's not wrong 100% of the time. You know, broken clocks, right? Twice a day,
Twice a day.
as they say.
At least.
So I'd hear him out, and certain percentage will hear us out, and certain percentage won't, and I'll get the people who will, because I am on their side. I don't want their politicians bought by corporate interests and controlled by Washington and Wall Street.
Sure.
I want to have an honest debate.
When you think about the Tea Party, I know that you get into a lot of rants about the Tea Party. I get into a lot of rants about the Tea Party. I think that the Tea Party, the better the Tea Party does, the more it will help progressive candidates, because they're taking away 8-1 or 9-1 Republican votes before they, compared to liberal votes. But that narrative, I'm not hearing it that much. Is there just something wrong about the narrative, or is there some reason that nobody's talking about it?
Well, look, there's an upside and a downside to it. The upside, obviously, is if they enter into an election, into a general election,
Right.
They've done great damage to Republicans, right? Because they're going to siphon away votes.
Yeah.
The Democrats going to win. Probably best example is 23rd District in New York, where they lost a seat that
That's
had
right.
been held since the 1870s.
Yeah.
So it's a losing short-term strategy, no question about that, especially if they go into general elections. But or even in primaries, it's probably a losing strategy, because they're going to get a person who's more right-wing, right, and less able to appeal to centrists.
Once they get to the general election.
Once they get to
yeah.
the general election.
Right.
Generally speaking, although I think a lot of people, like in Utah, for example, will think, hey, you know what, this guy's more honest than the old guy, Bob Bennett, who was a total sellout, right?
Yeah.
And so it's a mixed bag. But here's what I'm concerned about, and why I think a lot of people are concerned about the Tea Party movement. They're pushing the Overton window to the right. Okay, Overton window, for those that don't know, is where you are in the spectrum, and it moves. That window moves within the spectrum. Cheney and Bush pushed that window all the way to the right. Obama has barely pushed it an inch back, right? So that's one of the reasons we're disgruntled with Obama. As he's doing that, the Tea Party guys keep pushing that window further and further to the right. So now Obama, who I think is a center-right politician, not even a center-left politician.
Absolutely.
Okay, if your window is between Obama, who's center-right, and the Tea Parties, who are insane right, well, that's a terrible window. And you see how the Tea Parties have helped the right-wingers move the window in their direction.
It's interesting you mentioned the criticism of Obama, because on our show we've been pretty critical of him over the last couple months, and you have as well. And I start getting emails from tried and true Democrats, which I'm a registered independent. I'm not personally a Democrat. I agree mostly with liberals, saying I'm not helping the cause, as if because it's a progressive show there's some responsibility to agree with the president even if you don't really agree. Are you bumping up against that too?
Yeah, I get it all the time. And I tell them there's plenty of other shows that'll kiss Obama's ass. Go find those.
Right.
Okay. No, we don't do a show that's pro-Democrat. They're not my uncles. Okay. I got no interest. No, I'm doing a show on I happen to be a progressive on progressive principles. So if Obama's not fighting for progressive principles, what's the point of fighting for Obama?
Is that something, though, that we could argue Republicans have, when they are more successful, it can be in part because they've got people that are towing the party line no matter what, and maybe there's people like you and me that don't? I mean, is that a factor?
No, it's the exact opposite. The conservative talk shows don't toe the party line at all. Look at what they did to McCain. They didn't like Dole. They didn't like George H.W. Bush. They attack Republicans all the time and push them further and further to the right. So
successfully push them to the right?
Absolutely. I mean, look at John McCain. They got that clown to go from doing a reasonable immigration bill that he co-sponsored to saying, I'll vote against my own bill.
It was his bill, right.
Yeah, I'll vote against my own bill. Have I pleased you enough, Rush Limbaugh? No, they pushed them to the right, and from their perspective, they should. And so you're not doing yourself, your cause, or even the Democrats any favor by saying, okay, I won't question Obama, I won't question the Democrats.
Oh, I agree. No, I agree.
Because it only gives them an incentive to go further right, and because they think, well, I don't have to worry about the left, I don't have to appease the left, I don't have to give them anything I promised them. All I have to worry about is appeasing the right. That's a terrible idea.
It's a bad place to be, too, probably, yeah. Last thing, I had Ned Ryan on the show a couple weeks ago. He's like a teabagger trainer. He says he trains teabaggers on how to behave at the protests, so on and so forth. He suggested that the misspelled signs, like, thank our God will and all those bizarre signs, are liberal plants that are showing up there to make the teabaggers look bad. It would be brilliant if that was the case, would it not?
It would be, but A, I can guarantee you that there aren't liberals that organized. Okay, and B, I don't think liberals go and waste our time on stuff like that. Like, see, like the conservatives are in this conspiracy world. Like, they love the conspiracies, right?
The liberals are all conspiring. They're coming up with ways to make them think we're conservative. Yeah.
Right, but like, think about what Rush Limbaugh did during the primaries, Operation Chaos.
Right.
Okay, why don't we infiltrate the Democratic primaries and vote for Hillary Clinton, et cetera, et cetera? If you told progressives that, they'd be like, look, I got to go get lunch. Okay, I don't have time for this nonsense, right?
What's funny about that is there are actually lifelong Republicans that for some reason are cropping up now as registered Democrats in some of those rush districts, and they missed the deadline to go back to Republicans. So now they can't even vote in their actual Republican primaries. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's great. Look, we don't need plants to make conservatives look silly. They do plenty good job on their own in doing that. Yeah, and I'm just amused by the idea that, like, hey, let's try to make the conservatives look dumb.
Let's get signs
what
that
are
are
you talking
misspelled.
about? Their vice president was Sarah Palin.
Right.
Okay, or her vice presidential pick. Mission
If it were up to
accomplished.
them, she would be vice president right now. Yeah.
Oh, you know what, David? I just came up with not an idea, but a realization. Thank you for having me on the show and I had this conversation. Sarah Palin, a liberal plant.
She must be, all along. That's not, the thing is, to us at face value it would seem ridiculous. That was actually suggested at some point, that it was actually at the very top level when the name Sarah Palin was floated, it may have been influenced by the left. It would just be, it's giving the liberals so much credit.
Yeah. What do we
Probably undeserved.
We hatched a woman in Alaska who would then go and be really, really conservative and fairly hot. And then she would trick all the Republicans. And then and so she's brilliant.
Right.
She did this brilliant acting job throughout. She's the best sleeper cell in history.
She'd become governor.
Right. She becomes governor. And then she pretends to be an idiot while being conservative. Yeah, right.
Well, this is like the Orly Tate's birther conspiracy.
Right.
It was all a plan from the start, 47 years ago with Barack Obama.
Yeah.
They brought him over from Kenya, wherever it was. They developed the short form birth certificate, but they didn't have the long form. All along, it was a conspiracy. It's so hard to believe.
We had her on the show, and I asked her, so they planted newspaper announcements 47 years ago, knowing this kid who's being born now will one day become this half-black, half-white kid from, according to her, that was born in Indonesia, will obviously become president one day, so let's plant this stuff. And afterwards, she said that I was a thug to her on the show.
Yeah, I had her on too. She emailed me, and I remember saying to her, so you're telling me that Barack Obama is trying to kill you? He's manipulating your PayPal account? But PayPal now is on Obama's radar. She says, well, not him personally, but his people let the air out of my tires. I don't know.
Okay, I've attacked his people. Okay, I mean, nobody goes after Obama's people more than I do.
Sure.
Tim Geithner, Rahm Emanuel, etc. I haven't gotten any dead fish. I'm still all right. Nobody's manipulating.
Nobody's
my
letting the
PayPal
air out
account.
of your tires.
You
yeah.
know.
That's right. Well, we've been speaking with Cenk Uygur from theyoungturks.com. Pleasure to speak with you today.
Great to be asked. I really appreciate it. Great being on your show.
Thanks.